Drupal can handle some pretty advanced publishing scenarios. The core installation provides us with a handful of settings that enable us to control many aspects of how nodes are published. In this video, we're going to dig deeper into node publishing and revisioning options. Our main publishing settings are found on the node edit form. There are three sets of fields that work together to give us a considerable amount of control over the publishing process. And they are revisioning information, authoring information, and publishing options. Now I should say in this video, we're going to review the standard way these settings are intended to be used. However, it's important to note that Drupal is so configurable that you can make these settings work different if you want to. But to get started though, I recommend we stick with their standard usage. The first setting we want to look at are our publishing options. And here we see three checkbox options. The first one, Published, determines whether typical site visitors can view this content. To see how this works, let's pull up another browser where we're now an anonymous user so we can see things from their point of view. We're here on the home page and we see the node. If they click through, they can see the full node view. Pretty standard. Now if we uncheck this box and click Save, now if I run back to our anonymous user, we get an access denied. They can't view that node. If we run back to the home page, again the node is gone in the node list. The node will also disappear in things like search and other lists throughout the website. Let's go ahead and republish our node. Check Published, Save, and now the node is back. Let's look at our other settings. This second checkbox determines whether or not the node teaser shows up on the home page. We've already seen how this works in other videos. This last one, though, we haven't seen yet. This is basically, should this node be at the top of any list? So, for example, the list that's on the home page. Most lists are sorted in chronological order, although there are other ways of sorting. What's nice about this checkbox is it assures that any particular node is always at the top of that list. I should point out here that there are many different ways for node lists to be built in Drupal. The primary way for admins to build these lists is to use the Views module. For the most part, Drupal does not automatically enforce the settings in these custom-built lists. It's up to the site developers to make sure that happens. I recommend that when you build custom lists that you follow the intent of these options to keep a consistent UI. We'll cover building custom lists in later videos. Now let's take a look at our publishing information. You'll see that we have two input fields where we can specify the author of the node and the creation date of the node. By default, the author is who originally created the node, although this can be changed. The node author input is not just for the purpose of attribution. Node authors should be thought of as the owner of the content. Node authors can be given special permissions. For example, a typical way to set up a site is that copywriters can create nodes and edit their own nodes, but not nodes authored by other people. Therefore, being listed as the node author gives them additional permissions on these nodes. The authored on just provides a date of when this content was published. One interesting note is if you put a date before the current time on your server, the node will be unpublished until the server hits that time. So it's a way that you could queue up nodes for future publishing. Now let's take a look at another one of Drupal's powerful publishing controls, the revision system. This system allows you to keep a history of node revisions. It's great for facilitating editing where you might want to make a change to a node but be able to get back to previous versions. This is particularly useful for quality control where you have multiple authors and editors. You can use revisions to create drafts that editors then can later review for publishing. You could even create drafts of live nodes that can be reviewed by editors while the last approved version is still live on your site. So let's take a look at how this works by making an edit. Let's say that our legal department comes back and says, we need to attribute this article back to the place it was originally published. So I just want to add a new line, and now I want to scroll down and save a new revision in case we ever want to go back to the previous version. So we check this box, and then we want to put in a message as to why we created this revision. We click Save, And now we see our new line here, which is exactly what we expected, but we did get something new. We now have this revisions tab. We can click on it, and it'll allow us to get back to our old version if we want to. We also see that here's our note as to why we created this revision. It's a nice handy way for editors to understand different backup points they want to get to. So let's go ahead and do a revert. We confirm it, close out, and our line is now gone. But we still have our revisions tab. And if you look at what it actually did was, it cloned our original version and created a new revision of it up here. So this is a great tool that we can use to keep histories so that none of our work ever gets lost. In this tutorial, we covered some of Drupal core's built-in publishing controls. You can combine these settings with user roles and permissions to create even more powerful publishing workflows. For example, you might want to make a calendar of user-generated events. Anyone can submit an event, however, they have to be approved by an editor before being published. As you might expect, there are additional modules that even further extend your ability to control publishing. We'll explore advanced content workflows in a later video after we cover user roles and permissions.